Hi, Laura, Brandi Fugate. I am the broker here at Private Label Real Estate. I work with Lindsay, and I just saw your inspection report come over, so I wanted to shoot a quick video to review with you the next steps, where you're at in the process, what's next, and also to review your home inspection report with you. I have a copy of your contract pulled up. I'm going to fast forward down to page 2, where it talks about your inspections, investigations, and reviews. So you have 10 days from the date that the contract was signed, and the contract was signed on, let's see, seller on the 4th, you on the 4th. So it was signed on the 4th. So that means you have 10 days from the 4th, but you also have a 3-day kind of a planning period. We call it a time reference date. So you have a total of 13 days from the 4th, which would be probably the 17th, but let me get my calendar out and make sure. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, you have until tomorrow to have your inspections completed. Once the inspections are completed, and this is a sampling of various different types of inspections you could have performed, you did what 99% of other buyers do, which is a general home inspection, which also includes evaluation of the roof and a basic structural. It also includes the fixtures, equipments, and systems. And then you also did a termite and other wood destroying insect inspection. So once that inspection period deadline is over, which is tomorrow, you then have a couple of options. You can either A, let the seller know that the results were unsatisfactory and that you want to cancel the contract by signing a cancellation notice and get a full refund of your earnest money. Or under subparagraph C2B, you can complete what's called a TRR, stands for treatments, repairs, and replacements. We refer to it as a honeydew list. But you can submit to them a list of repairs that you want to have them make. And if they agree to everything in your list, then you're locked in. You are definitely buying the property. We have 7 days once we deliver that list to the seller to come to an agreement. The seller can either come back and say, yes, I'll agree to everything on your list, or they could say, no, I'm not agreeing to anything, which they should not do because they did not sell the house to you in as is condition. Or they may do a hybrid of the two, which is where they say, well, we'll do this, this, and this, but we're not going to do that, that, and that. And if we can't come to an agreement by the end of the 7 days, then the contract is canceled and you get your deposit back. Now, I do want to point out to you the spirit of the honeydew list, which is itemized here in subparagraph 2B. So the TRR form are those items to be treated, repaired, or replaced, including repairs caused by termites and other wood-destroying insects that are not in normal working order. Now, not in normal working order is defined as the system or component functions without defect for the primary purpose and manner for which it was installed. We're going to come back to that in a little bit. And a defect means a condition, malfunction, or problem which is not decorative that will have a materially adverse effect on the value of a system or a component. What we don't read in this paragraph is that the seller is required to bring the house up to code. It does not say that. As a matter of fact, it says that it has to function without defect for the primary purpose and manner for which it was installed. So I'll give you an example. If you're buying a 100-year-old home that has knob and tube wiring and the knob and tube wiring works, then it is without defect for the primary purpose and manner for which it was installed. That does not mean that the seller is required to bring everything up to modern electrical code. Another thing I want to point out is where it talks about an item which is not decorative. So anything that's decorative or cosmetic is not something that they're responsible to repair. Now, having said that, Lindsay will put on the honeydew list whatever you ask for. If you say, Lindsay, I want them to paint the house purple, she'll put that on the list. She's going to encourage you, as would I, not to get outside of the spirit of the honeydew list, because when we do, when we ask for things that are not within the boundaries of the scope of what the TRR should entail, that's when we can sometimes tick the seller off. Not only will they not agree to those things, but in our experience, they won't agree to normal things that are within this definition. So it just tends to backfire. And for that reason, that's why we like to review the inspection report with you. And because we sell hundreds of homes a year, it's our responsibility as your buyer's agency to review the inspection with you and tell you which items are commonly considered applicable to this paragraph. That was a mouthful. I'm sorry, but I just want to make sure you understand where you're at. Okay, let's start with the ODAF. This is the termite and wood destroying organism inspection. I always like to fast forward down to page 3 because this is going to give us the nuts and bolts. This is the drawing of your property, and this C11 is the only thing that they say is of concern. And to see what C11 is, we just simply go right down here. There is dense foliage or shrubs in contact with the structure. Because termites come from the ground, they eat on wood. If you have a shrub that is right up against the house, then that's an invitation for the termites to chew on that shrub and then come right over to the house. So what needs to happen is that shrub needs to be cut back away from the house. You don't have to pull the shrub out, but you just need to cut it back and pull it away from the house. And let's see if we have a photo of what that looks like. All right, where's our shrub? Right here. So it's the tree. The tree just needs to be cut off to where it's not touching the house. But that's a pretty simple solution. And that is something that is a textbook item that a buyer would put on the honeydew list. So I do recommend that you put that on the honeydew list. Okay, moving on. We're going to look at the inspection summary. So the full inspection report is probably 100 or more pages, but it gives you the good, the bad, the ugly, it tells you everything about the house. So what we do is we go to PDF here and we just look at the summary because it's only going to show us the defects. The first thing I notice is that it's only 11 pages. That's actually really good. The average home inspection defect summary is 26 pages. So this tells us that we've got a house that's in pretty good condition. So that's a good sign already. The first page is just a CYA on behalf of the seller. Okay, first thing, prior peering, noting evidence of prior peering, he meant to say at the property. Recommend trying to locate and secure anything to do with this process. Peering company invoice, structural engineer reports, and diagrams showing the locations of the pier installs. Also, many peering companies offer a transferable warranty. So the fact that we've got this rectangle cut out of the concrete means that they had installed a pier there. Let's look at their disclosure and see if they disclosed the peering. Are you aware of any previous foundation repairs? And they say yes. So let's go down to this section and see what they see. Piers with lifetime transferable warranty. Awesome. So just ask Lindsay. She'll get you a copy of that lifetime transferable warranty. All that's great. By the way, when it comes to peering, we have a very high clay content in our soil here in this part of the country. And so it isn't a matter of if a property is going to need piers, it's when. So the fact that someone has already piered the property is actually better than a house that doesn't have piers because that means you're probably going to have to pay to do it in the future. I just bought a house in June of last year, and mine had major piers all around the entire property, and the entire slab had to be pulled out and repoured. I loved that because that means it's done. It's under a lifetime warranty, and I don't have to mess with it. That was one of the draws of that property. Okay, evidence of water intrusion. The siding shows some signs of water intrusion, damage, or wood rot. This could lead to further siding deterioration and or damages. Recommend repairing. Okay, yeah, we've got a little spot right here that's a tiny little hole, but when it rains, water could go in there. It could rot the wood from the inside. It could cause mold. It could cause lots of issues. A tiny little thing like this could cause issues in the future. And then we've got some spots over here. This wood is rotted and they've painted right over it. And then this part of the siding, same thing. Looks like they've just painted right over it. That really needs to go on the home inspection, or I'm sorry, the TRR. I would highly recommend you put that on the inspection report, and it's a very small area. It looks like it's all confined to just right here, which is great. But I would put that on the list and expect the seller would repair that. What they just have to do is simply cut out any of the wood rot and then put new wood in, caulk it in to secure it really well, and then paint it to match. Sometimes what they can do is, especially a little spot like this, is they'll put as a product called Bondo on it, which kind of is the texture of toothpaste initially, but once it's exposed to the wood and exposed to air, it hardens almost like concrete, and then they paint right over it. This looks like maybe it's had some Bondo out of it in the past and it's failed, but either way, we don't get to tell the seller how to fix it. We just tell them to fix it. So next thing, weep holes missing. Weep holes were not observed in the exterior veneer as noted in the attached photos taken at the time of inspection. Because brick and mortars are porous, they absorb water that can seep through the bricks and then run down the backside of the bricks. If the water cannot drain, it could puddle inside the wall and potentially cause damage to your home structure. Weep holes are created as an escape route for water, but they aren't open all the way to your home's interior. The holes only go as deep as the structure's exterior sheathing, panels that are attached to wall studs. Let's see, what year was our home built? Because weep holes are not something that's been around forever. Let's see. The reason why I ask is because if this home was built prior to 1999, if this home was built prior to weep holes being a common practice, then again, you're asking them to make an upgrade to the property. Let's see. When were weep holes introduced? In the 1960s, it was introduced. Let's see. Become code. And around 1992, and we were built in 1999. Okay, so given that information, I would put installing weep holes on the honeydew list. Okay, let's see what else. GFCI will not trip. The GFCI function was not operable at the exterior outlets identified below. So a GFCI is a ground fault interceptor. Those are outlets that are required to be put modern code anywhere within 8 feet of a water source. So that's exterior, kitchen, baths, laundry, places like that. And they did do a GFCI, which is great, but it's just not functioning anymore. It's only functioning as an outlet, and it doesn't have that ground fault interceptor protection. So I would recommend that you put on the list to have this replaced with a new GFCI outlet. By the way, I always like to show you what these kinds of things will cost if the seller doesn't agree, although I suspect they'll agree to something like this. But just in case the seller did not agree, what would it cost you to have one installed? Let's find one that's in a casing. Okay, so here's the entire casing, the entire packet. It's 20 bucks and a 1 hour service call with an electrician. So it's not a huge amount of money, but I would put it on the list and I would expect them to fix it. Fencing needs maintenance. Well, the first question is it your fence? And sometimes that's hard to determine because you've got neighbors. Okay, so they did list on the listing that it does have chain link and privacy and it is fully fenced. So they're indicating that it is their fence, in which case I would put this on the honeydew list that we want some repairs made. We see that we've got some boards that have come unscrewed or nailed to the framing part of it. So I would put that on the list. Return air filter is missing or damaged. I would put that on the list. A lot of times sellers don't agree to things like that. When we ask them to replace the dirty air filter or clean out the leaves in the gutters, a lot of times they don't agree to that because they consider that to be maintenance items. I always put it on the list though. You don't know if they're going to agree until you ask. Age of unit, manufacture date for the water heater, 2011. So he isn't saying that there's anything wrong with the water heater. He's just telling you, FYI, your water heater is 14 years old. The average life expectancy is 12 to 15 years. So heads up, you may want to put some money aside to replace the water heater in case it goes out. And what does a water heater cost you? That really depends on if you are a handy type person and can replace it yourself. Here's a 40-gallon, 6-year warranty A.O. Smith for 500 bucks. Some people watch a YouTube video and install their water heaters themselves. If you were to contact a licensed plumber and have them come out and replace the water heater, they would probably charge you between $1,800 and $2,300. So he's just telling you, FYI, put some money aside because it's inevitably it's going to go out at some point. Interior water shutoff not located. Based on the age of the home, this doesn't surprise me. So about the mid-2000s, builders started putting a whole home shutoff valve in the home. And that's just to where if you have a major plumbing leak inside the house, you don't have to run out to the curb where the water meter is, take a water key and turn the water off. You simply have a little ball valve joint. Usually it's in a closet, like in the foyer, and you just simply turn it off there and you don't have to run outside. This wasn't common in the 90s. It was really the mid 2000s. I had a home built in 2005 and it had one, and I thought that was just the coolest thing. I'd never seen a shutoff valve inside the home before. So if you were to ask them to install a shutoff valve, that is definitely outside of the scope of or the spirit of the honey-do list because you're asking them to make an improvement, not repair a defect. It's not a defect. It wasn't designed to have one. Improper panel screws. This is something that is we see common. So on your electrical panel, you have, let's see if we can find one with the actual nails. Can't really see one. We'll just pull this image up. So you can see this particular version has 4 screws or nails that go in. So behind that panel, you have wires. Let's see if we can find one with the cover off. Hmm. We don't really have one with the cover off. We'll take this one, I guess, but normally this is one that isn't hooked up. You've got lots of wires running in and out of all of these breakers here. So if they screw with a pointy screw, it could inadvertently tap one of those wires and could be a big problem. You don't want to electrocute yourself. So what Brad always recommends is that you pull out those sharp point screws and replace them with a blunt nose screw like this. If the seller doesn't agree to it, you're talking about $1 or $2 worth of screws to just simply take the other ones out and replace them. But I would put that on the list. Fixture cover missing. So this is in the half bath, the exhaust vent cover. You're just missing that, what's the word I'm looking for? What is that? Plexiglass. You're missing the plexiglass cover. Again, if the seller doesn't agree to it, and I would put it on the honey-do list, you can buy a piece of plexiglass at Lowe's and it's pretty cheap. And you just take a little knife and score it and cut it to the size that you want. It starts out as cheap as $4.78. Failed seal. This is a tough one, man. We get like a 50-50 success rate when we ask a seller to fix a window that has a failed seal. So let's talk about this. You've got a dual pane window, which means you have 2 pieces of glass. And one is, of course, exposed to the exterior. And let's say it's a 100-degree day. So you got 100-degree heat coming on this part of the glass. And let's say you've got your AC cranked to 65. So you've got a 65-degree temperature coming on this side of the glass. When the windows are installed, it's filled with this gas on the inside of it. And that gas is a buffer between the 2 pieces. And it keeps it regulated. What happens is that those windows are sealed with this rubber seal, and over time, rubber starts to break down and kind of disintegrate, and it lets that gas escape. So then all you have is 2 pieces of glass very close to one another with just air in between. And what happens is that when this is really cold, this is really hot, condensation forms. So it doesn't mean that the window doesn't open, it doesn't work, it doesn't lock. They're not saying any of that. It's just a cosmetic eyesore, because if the temperature is 70 outside, 70 inside, it's clear. But if it's really hot or cold outside and there's a big variance in temperature, then it gets foggy like this. We have asked sellers multiple times to repair this. And like I said, we have about a 50-50% success rate. Most sellers figure that's just a cosmetic item, and so they don't agree to it, but you can certainly ask. Dishwasher to be secured. So when they install the dishwasher, there should be these little brackets that look like this that just secure it to, well, there's one there and there's one there. What's he say? Needs to be fully secured. Okay, so the brackets are there. It looks like they're just not screwed into the cabinet. And that's just to keep it to where the dishwasher can't pull in and out. It just needs a couple of screws there. I would put that on the list. Microwave handle. Oh, it's missing this little part right here. Microwave handle was damaged, broken, was loose at the time of inspection. I would absolutely put this on the list. And if the seller doesn't agree to it, you would just want to go to Amazon most likely, or Google the brand of your microwave and then type in replacement handle and you could replace it yourself. But I would put this on the list. Surface light not functional. So this is on the underneath the microwave on the vent hood. It probably just needs a bulb, but I would put that on the list. Range not fastened. So this is funny. I don't like to fasten my ranges because I like to pull my range out pretty often and clean behind the range. And it makes it difficult when you have it locked into this little device. So this little L bracket goes back here and it installs, and then the range just kind of snaps into it. And they're really difficult to get out. I've actually had to break my drywall. I've had to yank my oven out in the past, and it brought big chunks of the drywall out. So I don't like to do it on my rental houses, on my flip houses. I never install these brackets. But if that's a concern for you, and really the only reason why I would be concerned is if I had a toddler and they were going to be climbing up on the range, you don't want it to tip over on them. I would probably not ask for that to be installed, but it's your decision. Another GFCI that's not resetting absolutely needs to go on the list. Carbon monoxide detector is missing. So anywhere that you have a gas appliance, you should have a carbon monoxide detector. It is a safety hazard. Now, in 99, if it wasn't the code, that's maybe why it's not there. Or maybe there was one and the battery died and they just pulled it down from the wall. I would put that on the list, and just know if they don't agree to replace it, you can get battery operated ones that just stick to your wall. Here's $30 for a 2-pack. Let's see. Tank loose leaking. The upper tank was loose at the time of inspection and was wet along the base of the tank where it attaches. What do they have underneath there? It looks like they may just have something blocking it from bolting down properly. I would put that on the list. I don't know what that thing is. It may have been I don't know what that thing is. I would put it on the list. Door hardware missing or damaged. Door hardware was missing at the time of inspection. This is the hardware to latch the closet doors closed. Okay. So we're going to call that closet door hardware locking mechanism. I don't know if that's going to pull it up by that or not, but let's see. Yeah, there it is. Nope, that's not what I thought it was. Here it is. So, well, let's see. So we don't know really what type was there, but it's just a little mechanism. You see, this is less than $7. It's just a little mechanism that goes on the top of the door and then goes on the bottom of the trim, so that when the door closes, it just kind of catches in that little, kind of like a little ball joint, and keeps it from making those scratches on the door, for one. So I would put that on the list. Another failed seal, again, there's probably a better chance they won't agree to it than will, but you can certainly ask for it. And that's it. That's it. That is a really clean inspection report. I'm very impressed. Let's see. We went through the ODAF. Yeah, that's it. So the next step is your deadline is tomorrow to finish all of your inspections and reviews, and then you'll have 24 hours, which means Sunday, to submit your TRR. So just get with Lindsay, let her know what all items you want to have on that TRR. She'll type it up, send it over to you to sign, and then we go through a negotiation period with the seller and hope that we can come to an agreement as to which items stay on the TRR within 7 days. And if not, you can back out if you like. Thank you.